Hello, my name is Ben and welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking transfer targets ahead of blank game week 28. It's going to be a big couple of weeks in FPL with blank game week 28, double game week 29. A lot of you guys are going to be looking at who's transferring and how to attack these difficult game weeks that we've got coming up. So let's get right into it. Okay, so for a lot of managers this week, there's going to be, for a few managers, there's going to be budget restrictions. For a few, there's not. Harvey Barnes is one of those guys that I think if you've got a restricted budget, you should definitely be keeping your eye out for. A lot of you guys may not be able to go up to afford James Maddison, and this is the replacement for him if you can't. I personally do have James Maddison. I'd probably recommend him a little bit over Harvey Barnes, but if you haven't got the budget, he is a great guy to go for. His underlying stats have been very, very good over the last few weeks, and when Leicester play well, usually it's as a result of Barnes and Maddison also playing well. They've got an away game against Brentford coming up next. Over this season, their attacking stats have actually been better away from home than it has been at home. So I do think there is some points potential there with Brentford away. You know, Brentford's not the best defence in the world. We saw him keep a clean sheet last week, but that doesn't happen every week. He's secure in minutes, and at just 6.7 million, he's a guy that you could sort of switch out for a mid-price midfielder such as Martinelli and bring back someone in quickly. So he's one that you don't have to say is a long-term risk. You could bring him in for the short term over those decent fixtures. You look at game week 30 as well. After that, you could probably keep him as well for those nice fixtures that they've got coming up. So yeah, Harvey Barnes is my first transfer target. Okay, so next up, we've got what seems to be a hot topic in FPL at the moment. A lot of people looking to transfer out Haaland and wondering who's the sort of go-to to bring in terms of the striker positions. And there are a couple of options, one of which is Kai Havertz, who is now confirmed on penalties for Chelsea, with Everton at home in game week 28, a pretty plum fixture for Chelsea, and then a double game week in 29. Chelsea is starting to look like they're clicking into gear a little bit more, and Kai Havertz could be the guy sort of up top whilst that is happening. So I do think he's a good option. Like I said, it's a very hot topic with people selling Haaland. I'm probably not going to do it myself, just because I know of Haaland's haul potential, especially at home, especially at the Etihad. And against that Liverpool defence in 29, I could back him to score some big points. But if you are looking to replace him, I think Havertz is a great differential option. He's going to be a big differential in 28 and 29. So if you're looking to chase rank, could be a good differential for you guys. Okay, so next up is a guy that if you don't have him already, I'd definitely recommend getting him in as soon as possible. Despite not having a double game week in 29, I do think he's going to be essential for game week 28 and probably around the 120, 130% expected ownership mark come this week's deadline. We've got sort of relatively limited captaincy options to Kane and the Arsenal midfielders. So I do think Kane is a great captaincy shout for this week. And if you're looking to bench boost in 29, if you wanted to, you could transfer him out for that. But Everton away is still a really good fixture for Harry Kane. Obviously, they've had a week's rest in between their two fixtures from 27 and 28, where Southampton have had to play midweek against Brentford. And that was a tough game for those guys. So off the back of a full week's rest against a Southampton team that might be a little bit tired, I do think Harry Kane's got potential to haul big this week. Okay, so next up is a guy that was a hero for a lot of FPL managers earlier on in the season. And after a little bit of a dip of form with a lot of other Newcastle assets coming to the fore and performing a bit better than him in terms of expected goals and assists, Miguel Almiron has come back into the thoughts and minds of FPL managers ahead of 28 and 29. Of course, a lot of these transfer targets are going to be based around game week 29, where there is, of course, a double game week. And a lot of players are going to be looking for value picks so that they can sort of put on the bench. A lot of FPL managers will be looking for cheap bench options with a double game week and hoping they can capitalize on that. And Miguel Almiron at 5.4 million could be a great person to have on the bench for that bench boost. Forest away in 28 and then 29. The double game week isn't bad at all. Man United's a bit of a tough one, but West Ham as well, both at home. So I do think, there's some haul potential in Miguel Almiron. He came off the bench in game week 27. Obviously, some people are going to think that's a minutes risk, but of course, he scored and collected all 3 bonus points. So even if he doesn't start, he's, with the way Newcastle bonus points, sort of how they collect them, a lot coming from the defenders. So even an attacking return off the bench, Miguel Almiron's likely to be in the bonus as well, which is why I think he is a good consideration for those that are looking to bench boost in 29. Next up, we've got another Newcastle player, and for game week 28, I actually think it's very much viable to double up on the Newcastle defence with Trippier and one of Shah/Botman, or even Dan Burn. And I think Shah's probably the pick of them in terms of his ceiling. He's got a high attacking threat. He's on some set pieces. He's not on all set pieces. The ones a bit further out, he tends to get given for that power. And yeah, he's got a great goal threat, as I said. And at 13% owned, he could be a really good differential over the next few weeks. Newcastle defensively have not been as good since the World Cup, but their stats still remain quite decent and in sort of the top 4 within all teams in the Premier League. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't double up on that Newcastle defence and really start sort of getting gains from this Newcastle team again. Okay, so next up, we've probably got what is going to be the most transferred in player ahead of game week 28. It's Ollie Watkins. And again, a lot of people transferring out Haaland. This is the popular pick for the week in terms of the replacement. 6 goals in his last 7 games, which is fantastic. He's in great form. Since Danny Ings has left Aston Villa, he's become the main man up top for them. And under Emery, he's really flourished into a prolific goal scorer, as we can see from the stats previously. 7.4 million means you can make an easy switch and hokey cokey if you would, between sort of him, Ivan Toney, Kai Havertz. Even if you're looking to sort of transfer in Ollie Watkins and you've already got Toney and Kane, you know, Toney can come out after his sort of 29-30 when their Brentford's fixtures get a bit more difficult, and Watkins could be a long-term pick for you. So 7.4 million. His ownership will not be 11.1% come the deadline. It'll be a lot higher. His expected ownership, I expect, probably going to be around 60-70%. It could even be more than that. I think a lot of FPL managers are going to look to bring in Watkins. I mean, 4 fixtures over the next 3 game weeks, and the 2 with the single game weeks are Bournemouth home and Forest at home. So I do think there's some really decent points potential with Ollie Watkins going forwards. Okay, but last but by no means least, we've got Ben Chilwell, another Chelsea player. I do think that with the system that they're playing, he was in last week's transfer targets. My point remains the same with Chelsea. I think they're good value to invest in at the moment with their fixtures coming up. Defensively, looking a lot more solid. Everton at home, I think, is a really good fixture for Chilwell. With their wing-back system, he's getting a heap load of chances. His heat maps are looking really good. And unlike Reece James, he's actually becoming a little bit more reliable in terms of the minutes that he's getting. Of course, with game week 29, there's going to be potential for some rotation due to the Champions League, but I think it's worth taking that risk over the double game week and at least getting him for one of those fixtures, because I think over the next 3 fixtures, he will turn it in each game week of 28, 29 and 30. Obviously, after that, it's a couple more difficult fixtures, but Chilwell, for me, he looks like a really decent asset, and potentially, I don't want to put it out there as must buy for 28, but certainly for 29, I'd definitely have him in your considerations as a defensive option. Okay, so that rounds up our transfer targets for this week. Obviously, Josh is still away on holiday, and I hope he's having a good time and, you know, keeping up with all the FPL transfer targets too. As always, if you like the video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on all of our socials. They're linked down below. And as per usual, I've been Ben. We'll see you later and have a good game week, everyone.